Alright everyone, welcome back to another turn of Operation Schultz. This is going to be turn 3 for the British Commonwealth. That would be July of 37, yes. Okay, let's get straight into it. I've already set aside the die I'm going to use for research. That's going to be long-range aircraft and anti-submarine warfare. 8 or 7 for anti-submarine, misses, and 8 for advanced well, that's not advanced submarines. It's supposed to be LSW, LRA. Does hit. I'm all over the place. Yeah, okay. And then, there, good to go. Alright, so I have already set aside the buys as well. For GB, I'm declaring 2 militia, 1 militia upgrade, 1 infantry, and 1 colonial infantry, and that will clear my entire bank for 13. For FEC, I'm buying 1 infantry and 1 militia for 5, also clearing the bank. And for Anzac, 2 militia for 4, clearing the bank. Let's get straight into the combat moves. There is only one. These 3 coastal subs have a chance to shoot at my battleship as it passes, but I'm just going to assume it's not going to happen. It doesn't make sense to happen. Alright, let's get straight into the non-combat movements. And let's start over in the east. Furthest from the majority of my power. Okay, so first off, the artillery and infantry in South Australia are boarding the transport. It did start the turn in port. I pulled it out because everything is a little too clustered right there. So these 2 are boarding the transport, and then the 3 are using strategic naval movement. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then the land units are disembarking into South Africa. And that should cover that. The heavy cruiser for FEC that was in port in South Australia is going to leave and move 1, 2, 3, 4 into I2. The destroyer that is in port in Malaya is moving 1, 2, 3, 4, and going in port in South Australia with the rest of the Australian fleet. And the transport that was in port in Malaya is moving 1, 2, and just parking in port in Maharashtra. Actually, you know what? I don't think that's a good idea. I'm going to park him in Calcutta. Okay, so that should be everything in the Indian and Pacific Oceans and the Mediterranean. I guess for the Mediterranean, 2 heavy cruisers that were in A44 are going to be going in port in Gibraltar. That should cover all of my movements, so let's get into placing the buys. Okay. FEC and Anzac first. Both units for FEC are being built in Calcutta, and both units for Anzac are being built in Sydney. That's not true. One militia is being built in Sydney, and the other is going to be built in Queensland. Yeah, that'll do. Yeah, okay. But both units were built in Calcutta. That brings the total to 5 infantry and 1 militia in Calcutta. Okay. All right, for the GB official units, the militia upgrade and one of the militia are going in Gibraltar, leaving 3 infantry and 1 militia, with 2 heavy cruisers in port. Okay, the colonial infantry is being built in Suez, or Lower Egypt, and the regular infantry is being built in Cape Town. The remaining unit, which is a single militia, is going to be placed in North England on the home island. And that should cover everything intended for the British Commonwealth this turn. Collect money. So now the GB has an income of 14, and FEC and ANZAC don't change from their base income, so that should be everything that there is there. Alright, I will... I guess, yeah, if you're not updating a board, you can go ahead and pass the video on to the next one for the French movement. I'll go ahead and do a unit recap for 5-star. For ANZAC, there are now 3 militia in Sydney, 1 in New South Wales, 1 in Queensland, nothing in New Guinea, and just 1 militia on the North and South Islands of New Zealand. The fleet in port in South Australia includes 2 FEC destroyers, an ANZAC destroyer, and an ANZAC light cruiser. Alright, moving away from ANZAC. In Hong Kong is 1 militia. Malaya has 1 Gurkha, 1 infantry, and 2 militia. Calcutta has 5 infantry and 1 militia. And then Delhi and Southern India have 1 militia from spawn. Okay, moving on to Africa. Cape Town has 1 infantry. South Africa has 1 militia. And then 1 ANZAC infantry, 1 ANZAC artillery, and 1 ANZAC motorized infantry. Just offshore of South Africa, in I-1, is an FEC light carrier with a fighter, an FEC transport, an ANZAC transport, and a GB destroyer. In I-2, there is an FEC heavy cruiser making its way over to join the fleet in South Africa. Alright, moving northward a little bit, there are no Commonwealth units to speak of until we get to Suez, which has now 3 infantry and 1 colonial infantry. No units in port. The British submarine in M9 is just staying where it is. Gibraltar has 3 infantry, a militia, 2 heavy cruisers in port. A44 has, for GB, 2 battleships, a heavy cruiser, a destroyer, a light carrier with a tactical bomber, a submarine, and a light cruiser, and then additionally a heavy cruiser on escort duty. And in addition to all of those GB official units, there is also an FEC battleship in the area with that fleet. Moving north, the majority of anything by the home islands did not change. 1 militia was added to northern England. And that's literally the only thing that changed up here at all. Nothing else changed. So that means 1 infantry and militia in London, 5 militia, 1 infantry, 1 mountain infantry, 1 fighter, 1 transport plane, 1 medium bomber, and 1 seaplane in southern England, and 2 transports and a destroyer in port in southern England to A21. And in A4 has a small fleet of 3 destroyers, 2 TBDs, a coastal defense ship, a light cruiser, and a battle cruiser. That should cover the entirety of the disposition of any of the Commonwealth that has changed since the start of the game. So I'm going to pass the board off to myself for the French planning and recording. So, be right back with the next video.